Some inventions changed the world, but some killed the people who created them. And the worst part, most of these deaths were completely avoidable. A submarine test that never came back up. A man who jumped from a tower to prove his parachute, and the world watched it fail. A flying machine pioneer who kept pushing the limits until the limits pushed back. A printing press so powerful it helped change journalism, and then turned on its creator. A scientist whose discoveries opened a new era, but slowly destroyed her body. A rocket experiment that ended in a flash years before the space age even began. These are 7 true stories about invention, and the moment it backfired. Story 1. The submarine that took its creator. In the 1860s, the idea of a submarine was basically science fiction. Wooden ships, cannons, smoke, and then someone says, "What if we attack from underwater?" A man named Horace Lawson Hunley helped build an early Confederate submarine. It was a metal tube, hand-powered, claustrophobic, and unbelievably dangerous. Testing these early submarines wasn't like testing a car. There were no modern safety standards, no emergency training, no reliable oxygen systems. Accounts describe multiple deadly accidents during the submarine's development and trials, and at one point, Hunley himself joined a test run. Something went wrong. The submarine sank. Hunley and the crew died inside the invention they believed would change history. What makes this story hit hard is that the concept was brilliant, but the margin for error was basically zero. One mistake, one leak, one miscalculation, one panic moment, and the ocean doesn't forgive. And yet, the submarine idea didn't die with Hunley. It evolved. It became safer. It became one of the most powerful technologies on Earth. But the early price was paid in lives, sometimes by the inventors themselves. Story 2. The parachute suit jump. Franz Reichelt. Imagine being so confident in your invention that you decide to become the test dummy. In 1912, a tailor named Franz Reichelt believed he created a wearable parachute, a parachute suit that could let a person jump and glide safely. The problem? Early parachute designs were tricky. Too little surface area and you drop like a stone. Too much and you can't control the deployment. Reichelt wanted proof, real proof, so he arranged a public test at the Eiffel Tower. People gathered. Cameras rolled. He stepped to the edge wearing his invention, this bulky suit that was supposed to catch air. And then he jumped. The suit didn't open the way he hoped. There was no graceful glide. No last-second save. Just a fast fall recorded, witnessed, and impossible to undo. This wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning. Belief is not testing. Confidence is not data. Modern parachutes are engineered with strict standards, material testing, controlled jumps, training, backups, because the human body gets only one attempt when gravity is involved. Story 3. The glider pioneer Otto Lilienthal. Before airplanes ruled the sky, flight was a dream and a gamble. Otto Lilienthal was one of the first people to prove controlled gliding could actually work. He didn't just sketch ideas, he built machines and launched them. His designs looked fragile: wood frames, fabric wings, cables, the pilot hanging underneath. But he became famous because he could do something almost no one else could. He could repeatedly glide through the air, on purpose, with control. The problem is, early aviation had no safety net. There were no modern helmets, no crash structures, no emergency systems. The test program was the inventor climbing a hill and jumping. During one flight in 1896, something went wrong. Reports mention a sudden stall. He fell, and the injuries were fatal. Here's the part people forget. Lilienthal's work didn't fail. It advanced flight massively. His experiments influenced the next generation of aviation pioneers. But the early era of invention had a brutal rule. The inventor's body was often the crash test. Story 4. The printing press accident. William Bullock. Not every fatal invention story looks like an explosion or a fall from the sky. Sometimes it's a machine that's too good at what it does. In the 1800s, printing technology was evolving fast because newspapers were becoming mass media. More readers meant more pages, faster deadlines, bigger machines. William Bullock is often credited with major improvements to rotary printing presses, machines that could print at speeds that changed the industry. But those presses were also huge, heavy, and unforgiving, exposed gears, rollers, moving parts that didn't pause if a human made a mistake. Historical accounts commonly describe Bullock suffering a severe injury involving a press mechanism, an accident that led to infection and ultimately his death. Even if you don't memorize the name, memorize the lesson. Industrial progress created industrial risk, and that's why modern factories are full of guards, emergency stops, lockout procedures, and training, because powerful machines don't understand sorry, they only understand motion. Story 6. Discovering radiation before anyone knew the cost. Marie Curie. Some inventions kill fast, others kill slowly, so slowly that people don't realize they're in danger until it's too late. Marie Curie's work opened the door to modern physics and medicine. She studied radioactive materials at a time when radiation was mysterious, almost magical. Early researchers didn't have modern protective gear. They handled radioactive sources closely, stored materials near their workspaces, and lived with exposure as part of daily life. Curie's notebooks and lab items were reportedly so contaminated that they required special handling even years later. She ultimately died from a plastic anemia widely linked to long-term radiation exposure. It's a brutal irony. Her discoveries saved countless lives through science and medicine. But the discovery process itself came with a cost no one understood. And that's why the modern world has radiation rules: time, distance, shielding, because invisible dangers are still dangers. Story 7. Rocket experiments before the space age. Max Valier. When people think rockets, they think NASA, but rocket obsession existed long before space travel became real. Max Valier was a pioneer of early rocketry in the 1920s and 30s, a time when experiments were closer to workshop chaos than modern engineering. He tested engines, explored liquid fuel ideas, and pushed hardware that was barely understood. And then, during a test in 1930, an engine exploded. Valier was killed. It's the same pattern you've seen in every story today. Early progress lives on the edge of catastrophe. But what looks reckless in hindsight was often the only way forward at the time. Modern rocketry is built on test stands, containment, remote monitoring, redundancies, because the pioneers paid the price that taught everyone else what not to do. 7 stories, 7 inventions, and 1 lesson. Progress isn't just genius, it's discipline. Because every safety checklist, every guardrail, every boring rule exists because someone learned it the hard way. If you want Part 2 Modern Inventions, Modern Failures, comment Part 2. And if you're new here, subscribe. You're about to get smarter.
Subscribe to keep upgrading your brain. See you in the next one.